So today is a presentation on LSK3701 Life Skills Science and Technology Teaching in the Foundation Phase. This is your assessment 2 feedback as well as your exam preparation because we are getting closer to the exam period. I am your lecturer, Mrs. A Carrim, and you can email me on ecarrier1@unisa.ac.za. So I just want to remind you that announcements are added on the teaching and learning platform, which is the My UNISA Moodle platform, and no communication from Gmails are accepted. This is in line with the POPI Act that protects your privacy. So I'm noticing a lot of students emailing from their Gmail account. I know you might have some issues maybe with your My UNISA email, but it's very important to get that sorted, especially for the exam period. If you want to log into the exam platform, it requires your login details into your email address. So please get that sorted immediately, just to avoid any unnecessary, challenges or technical difficulties that will affect your submission on the exam day. Okay, so assignment feedback and exam guidelines are very important, to read through. I know that a lot of students probably didn't read the TAT 201 that's posted on announcements. So I thought this would be a good way to get everyone to listen to this presentation, just so you have a brief understanding of where you went wrong, how to improve, and, and what is expected for the exam period that's coming up. So just a reminder that your assessment information, in terms of your assignment 1 and assignment 2, that's noted as assessment 1 and assessment 2 was basically compulsory. I know a lot of students have emailed me and said we didn't submit assignment 2 or we didn't submit assignment 1. But remember, this is based on the university decision now. You have to wait to see if you gain the exam entrance. And then remember, if you have not submitted, you lose your year mark, which basically was 20% of your year mark. And that was very important for you to do for preparation for the exam, as well as to go into the exam with a higher year mark that helps you, get a better mark and, obviously pass the module at the end of the day. So your online examination will account for 80% of your final mark. So please make sure to work really, really hard for your exam. I know a lot of students feel that they don't have to really, study for the exam because you online and things like that, but you are not allowed to be referring to your, all of your study guides and things like that. You need to understand your work because it's application of knowledge, especially with the Invigilation app and things like that. It's very important that you are not, taking things from the study guide, and, you need to understand the content. Once you understand the content, the application thereof is much easier. Remember, you going into a teaching profession that expects you to do lesson planning, to apply, teaching strategies and, basically consider different types of activities that include all students and really bring out the inquiry-based learning that is expected from this module. So it's something that you need to understand and be able to apply. Now we're looking at problems with submissions. I am so, concerned regarding this. Sometimes we feel like there's no way this mistake will happen, but I've seen it with the assignments where students have submitted one. Student probably submitted, maybe a study guide, and then assessments from other, from other modules, and also blank documents, corrupt scripts, all of that. I've tried to repair any corrupt scripts that I received, but unfortunately, some were beyond repair. So remember that that submission is your responsibility, to check that you've submitted correctly. So please, I do not want to see any students, get 0 for such a thing, especially if you've done all the work, you've done the assignment, you've done the exam, and now you failed just because you uploaded the incorrect document. Remember, no late submissions will be accepted. This means, if you're going to email me after the exam, your exam paper, there's no way I can accept it. I try to respond to all these emails, but I feel like it's not fair that I've communicated this to you, and I constantly get these emails that go against the policy of UNISA. So please make sure that you submit on the system incorrect assignments. Now we're talking of exam. Use your module code, your the number of the exam or whatever it is, the date of the exam. Make sure you upload the correct exam. Sometimes you save it as LSK exam, October, September, period, and then you upload the question paper. I've seen so many students upload my assignment for LSK instead of the answer sheet. And this meant that they got a 0. Corrupt files, I do try to repay it, but unfortunately, sometimes they're beyond repair, and there's nothing the university can do in that sense. But please make sure your script can open. The corrupt scripts really do waste a lot of marking time, because then we need to download it, offline and see if we can repay it. And that's the only way it can be marked offline. And then I'm sure some students have seen that I've uploaded the feedback document via the side panel on the assignment script, because it was impossible to mark it online within the Moodle system. So that also causes a lot of disruption and a lot of delays in marking. Plagiarism, please, students, I cannot emphasize how important it is for you to read the policy on plagiarism. I have uploaded things on announcements and the additional resources. Please read about it, understand what plagiarism is. Even using these AI tools are not allowed under any circumstances. You must understand that AI is not a human tool. It's generated in a different way. It's very easy for us as markers as well as lecturers to pick up when you've used AI. And we've created AI memo. So it means if you go and ask AI, a question, and it gives you an answer, it's already flagged on my memo to say that this is an AI generated answer. So just be careful for that. I do not want to see anyone fail their last year of this module just for taking chances that can really be detrimental to your studies and, lead you to, sit in disciplinary hearings and lose your qualification just for not, putting the work in. You are in a higher education system. You are given the opportunity to learn, learn the content, be able to apply it. And this is going to be something that you take with you to your exam, to your career and to your classroom. Why would you want to lose the opportunity to learn these skills that you so much require in the teaching profession that going into? So please do not lose any opportunities. Do not wait until now I basically put one of the assignment comments here. But when we look at the exam, you're going to basically have 3 hours. And it will be confirmed via announcements. You usually have a 30-minute period just to upload your exam. It's not more than that. And if you later than that, you're basically not going to have that submission button, which means it's going to be over. So just make sure that you submit immediately after you're done. Rather time yourself for the 3 hours. After the 3-hour period, start submitting your script, so you don't have that problem where it's the last minute and then your script is not accepted. Even a minute late, students, there's no extra time, additional time given. I can assure you that, because I've seen many students lose that opportunity. Okay, so we're looking at assignment feedback. Now, if you look at, I'm basically saying please adhere to the correct technical guidelines. As students in higher education, you need to understand that, okay, maybe sometimes a table of contents is not so applicable within small assignments, but you need to make sure that you number your questions, have headings where required, have references, things like that. That is part of higher education. You're expected to engage a little more with the content. Some students found the application questions particularly challenging. Remember, marks were allocated for application of knowledge in the context of the given question. So the assignment basically assess your knowledge of theme planning, derived from the questions that were given. Please ignore the certain things in the slide because I think I took one of the common challenges and it's not applicable to this assignment. So remember to look at the tutorial letter 101 of this year. And I noticed that students battled to answer some sections in their own words. So most students had the answers correct, but they copied straight from the study guide rather than using their own words, and applying their knowledge according to the theme plan. So remember, the theme plan was on the water topic that you had to consider. So it's not the children's book as noted here. So please ignore that. Okay, so now we're looking at science content strands. Selection. Firstly, your question was to look at the science content strands, and this was very important for you to understand because you choosing which 4 science content strands describe the content of your theme plan. And remember, completing this assignment requires all the answers to be based on a water topic that you selected, in any foundation phase grade. So you were given basically, you had to basically identify the science content strand, that ensures that your lesson plan is aligned with curriculum requirements. So this alignment was very crucial for you to understand, for addressing the necessary learning outcomes. And what I would suggest for improvement is to ensure you can identify the most relevant science content strands that directly relates to water. Review the 4 content strands carefully to make an informed choice. So it just depends on what topic you chose. But remember, scientific knowledge and concepts are classified and grouped into content areas, also called these knowledge strands in the curriculum documents. So the 4 science content strands of the South African curriculum are life and living, energy and change, matter and materials, and planet Earth and beyond. So I want you to go into the CAPS curriculum and note these things, in the life skills for foundation phase document. It describes these content areas. Life and living is living things, for example, animals, plants, the environment, things in the environment that are living. And then planet Earth and beyond, things like soil, water, air, stars, planets. When you look at energy and change, forces, movement, energy, matter and materials, the nature of materials. So these are things you need to understand. And you need to refer to the section, I think it's 2.4 in your study guide, and make sure you understand it, because remember, you needed to motivate the choice of the science strand. So you needed to justify your choice of the content strand, with logical reasoning and specific examples that demonstrate your deep understanding of the curriculum and its application. So my suggestion to improve is for your explanation to clearly link specific activities from your theme plan, to the chosen content strand. You can provide concrete examples to strengthen your justification, show how this strand will be developed through your lesson. It's very important to show that application of knowledge. So to answer this question, you had to first identify the main content strand, like I said, and align it with your theme plan on water. You needed to then justify your choice by explaining how that selected strand, encompass the core concepts and activities of your theme plan. Like I said, examples showing your application thereof is a much better way to motivate your choice. Okay, so now we're looking at big ideas. So now the next question, first gave you a statement. Big concepts are not taught as topics on their own, but are ideas that link several topics to organize and categorize information. So if we look at this, big ideas, first you needed to select the appropriate social science big idea. And this is described in Learning Unit 2 in a very detailed way. And you needed to understand how to, integrate it into your inquiry-based theme plan. Remember, we're looking at the water topic. So big ideas help students connect specific concepts to broader themes. It helps you foster a deeper understanding and critical thinking within your learners' understanding. So I would suggest that you select the big idea from the CAPS social science curriculum that best aligns with your water theme plan. So you needed to make sure that your choice reflects the core concepts of your plan and can naturally be integrated into your lesson. So if you look at this specific topic, you needed to understand what conservation is. It's basically the conservation and protection of natural resources. So, for example, just say related to a water topic, when you're teaching about water conservation, how to store water, avoid wasting it, prevent water pollution. That is part of conservation. And then when we look at cause and effect, you're understanding the relationship between actions and the outcome. So you could have, if your topic had was part of exploring the effects of pollution on water, water quality, and and aquatic life, how waste in rivers affects fish and plants. So all of that is cause and effect, And then we're looking at place, understanding one's role and the impact within different geographic and social context. And this is where you could have come to discuss the local water sources, maybe rivers, lakes, and how the community uses, and impacts them in that sense. And then you look at change, the constant nature of change in the world and its impact on living things and environment. So in this, for example, you could have been investigating the water cycle, how water changes from liquid to vapor, ice, and the effects of these changes on the environment. When we look at adaptation, how living things become better suited to the environment. So, for example, studying aquatic animals and plants that have adapted to live in water, such as fish, gills for breathing underwater, water lilies floating on the water, things like that, how they adapt. Relationship and interdependence, that is the interconnectedness of living things, in the environment. So you could have maybe considered exploring food chains in the pond ecosystem, how fish, plant, insects, and microorganisms depend on each other, But obviously you need to look at the water topic. Diversity and individuality, recognizing and valuing the diversity of living things and the unique traits, observing different types of how different types of animals, or how they function in water, something to that effect. It just depends what you chose. I have left it in that sense. Okay, so let's go to the next section. Now you're looking at learners' prior knowledge. So now we're looking at, if you look at learners' prior knowledge, you're thinking about if you want to teach learners basically, about your specific topic and the chosen science concept, you must know what they understand about it and how they came to have that understanding. So you need to basically show how will you go about finding out what your learners, understand about your topic and the science concept before you teach it. So learners' prior knowledge, you need to consider inclusion of steps to find out what learners understand about the science concept in your inquiry-based team plan before it's taught. Assessing prior knowledge, helps tailor your teaching, to the needs of your students and making learning more effective. So I would suggest, you combining various assessment methods, informal assessment methods to gauge learners' pre-existing knowledge about water, include interactive and observational techniques, to gather comprehensive insights. This will help you design lessons that build on what they already know. So you can refer, I'm not too sure if I put the correct section, but section 1.7, does give you an indication of assessing prior knowledge. So it's a lot about reading through the study guide. It's not about a specific section. It's about understanding a lot of the things that are within the study guide to actually answer this question. So before teaching your topic on water and the science concept, it's important to understand what your students already know, remember. And it involves, maybe different methods, pre-class discussions, analyzing this information. You can basically adjust your teaching before you teach, because you can understand where they're at, currently, ensuring better understanding and engagement with the topic. And remember, pre-assessment is a crucial step in effective teaching, helping you as an educator tailor your approach to support your student learning. So this was very important as well. And now when we look at placeholders, in the teaching of science, placeholders are basically words to develop concepts. And it's very important to develop science concepts, indicate the placeholders that you will use in your theme plan. So an explanation would be placeholders are key terms or concepts that serve as building blocks for a deeper understanding in science education. So my suggestion for improvement would be identify relevant placeholder words that will help develop your scientific concept related to the water topic you're teaching. Explain how these words will be used in activities to enhance understanding within your theme. So you can also refer to section 1.7 if I'm correct. Sometimes the document I'm using might be a bit different, but just go into the study guide and look for, the section that talks to placeholders in science education. And what I can give you maybe examples, if you're talking about something like water vapor, water in its gas form, and then in example, you can discuss steam from a boiling water and how it forms clouds. So this is how you create an understanding, you basically using different words that can, help them, it basically use practical activities in everyday discussions. It basically allows them to build a foundation of for scientific understanding through familiarizing themselves with the usage of these key concepts, in the water topic. So think about liquid water in its liquid state. They can observe and describe water in ponds, evaporate, process of water turning, things like that. So it's very important that because if you look at it, if you just give them a big explanation of it, they won't really understand it. So first try to give them that, you can demonstrate certain things to make them understand a specific concept. Okay, so now we're looking at 1.5, which was you are expected to make use of the following and relate how they have been integrated in your inquiry-based team plan to encourage learners to explore new content in an objective and open-minded way. So now you were looking at bootstrapping, sense and meaning making, conceptual change, science and investigation. These type of questions, they seem overwhelming, but I promise you, if you've done the activities in the study guide, and if you really really interacted with the content during the year, this would be a concept that you understood and are able to apply it in any teaching situation, in any theme plan. While you're busy with your lesson plans, think of bootstrapping, think of sense and meaning making. How are you going to do conceptual change? What science investigation can strengthen this lesson? Think about it in that way. It will feel less overwhelming. So bootstrapping involves building on what students already know to introduce new concepts. So my suggestion for improvement is for you to clearly explain each concept, now and its relevance. Describe how you will connect previous knowledge to new ideas in your water theme. Provide specific examples how each concept is integrated into your theme plan. So if you're looking at bootstrapping, it's also like basically small activities, basically, to build upon students' existing knowledge to establish a foundation for new learning. So read about bootstrapping and also sense and meaning making. That's where you help students connect new information to existing knowledge and making learning more meaningful. So include activities that encourage students to relate new concepts to real life situations, such as discussing the importance of water, for example, in daily life to solidify their understanding of the water cycle. Sense making is encouraged through activities linking abstract concepts to real world examples. And this is how they can find relevance and comprehension into, your lesson. Now we're looking at conceptual change. Conceptual change involves shifting students' understanding from a naive or incorrect idea to a scientifically accurate concept. So now we're looking at planning activities, that challenge students' preconceptions and guide them towards a more accurate understanding of water-related topics. So, for example, you need to also, when prompting conceptual change, provide opportunities for learners to challenge and revise their understanding based on evidence and inquiry. When we look at science investigation, we're looking at you considering hands-on investigations, to engage your students in the scientific process, helping them understand concepts through experimentation. So, suggestions for improvement will be detail the types of investigations you will include, such as maybe experiments on evaporation, water filtration, things like that, so that they will help students grasp key scientific principles. And hands-on science investigations can really engage your students in active exploration, fostering curiosity and critical thinking, which is very important. Okay, and this was a really big question, for 25 marks. Unfortunately, some students did not, read the instructions carefully, did not use the correct lesson plan, did not incorporate the 7-phase cycle. So a lot of you may have lost marks in that sense and not applying it to your theme plan. So now we're looking at, the extent to which all aspects of planning were based on the 7-phase cycle. So a well-structured lesson plan that follows the inquiry-based model basically shows that you as students are actively engaged in your learning, and you made sure to get your students to explore, ask questions, find answers through investigation. I would suggest that you ensure each section of your lesson plan is detailed and aligns with the 7-phase cycle. Provide specific examples and clear descriptions of activities, assessments, and reflections, and use the template as per instruction. But what I can tell you, in the exam, you need to understand the 7-phase cycle very clearly, because you might not get this type of lesson plan in the exam. You might get, basically application-based question on the 7-phase cycle, which means you have to apply each phase of the 7-phase cycle. Because we have noticed that even though I've given you this lesson plan, and there's a lot of students not incorporating the 7-phase cycle, which is very concerning because it's an important component for you to develop well planned lessons. Now, this was the, sorry about that, this was the lesson plan template, right? So if you look at it, just for completing this main information, you were getting marks, maybe just for filling out this, you'll get about a mark. Outcomes are very important. What are the outcomes of your lesson? Concepts and new knowledge taught, decide, you are basically expected to decide what concepts or new knowledge you're planning on teaching. And when it comes to differentiation, you need to show how you're making provision for learners' enrichment, learner support, and add the concerns maybe you have, regarding your lesson. When it comes to the lesson presentation, remember, you needed to, first of all, have an introduction to the lesson, body of the lesson, consolidation, conclusion. And this is where you need to plug in your phases. Introduction phase, basically you're providing a detailed description of how you plan to begin your lesson. You can also add things like how you greet the learners, setting the atmosphere for the lesson, activate learners' prior knowledge, creating the link between what they already know and the new knowledge you will be presenting, and also explain the theme you have selected above and how you will indicating the resources, things like that. And also you need to incorporate the phase here. Phase 1 and phase 2 can happen in this introduction, in terms of introduction and exploration. And the body of the lesson, this is where you provide detailed description of the content you will be presenting. You need to indicate how will you present the content, of the lesson, and also consider what activities the learners will be required to do. So this is where you're going to basically maybe consider phase 2, 3, and 4, or only 3 and 4, where you can add maybe exploration if it wasn't done in the introduction, and designing an investigation, conducting an investigation. When it comes to the conclusion, you're providing a detailed description of your plan for the conclusion of the lesson, explain how you will consolidate the new knowledge, incorporate assessments, objectives, how you're wrapping up, follow-up activities needed to consolidate the lesson. And this is where phase 5 comes in, because it's your conclusion. When you come to the assessment phase, you're basically providing details of how you will assess the learner. So think about things like a self-assessment, peer assessment, teacher assessment. When it comes to the forms, sometimes you have participation. Okay, sorry about that. And then you're looking at written work, this is where you bring in maybe writing activities, and even it could be drawings, things like that. Written work, demonstrations, your physical demonstrations, maybe role plays, experiments, models, using collages, artworks, construction. So all of these things are very important for you to understand. Also the strategies, whether you're using questioning, listening, All of this are, in lesson plan templates, across all types of schools. Everyone uses quite different types, but if you look at it, it all boils down to the same strategies, in terms of reading, interpreting. It's very good to put technology, like we encourage watching a video, things like that. Assessment instrument, creating a checklist, especially in the foundation phase, there's usually checklists, rubrics, things like that you need to consider, incorporating. In terms of, and that's where you'll obviously have your, if we look back here, you'll obviously have your phase 6, by presentation, probably by forms as well. Reflection, and, it is necessary for you to basically reflect on the lesson you have presented. And remember, when you're reflecting, add the strengths, add the weaknesses, add the challenges, and things like that. You cannot just say, yes, they enjoyed the lesson. That is not a reflection. You will not get a mark for something like that. When it comes to resources, where possible, I see some students add the photos, they make the artwork, things like that. But it also fine in lesson plan just to, list it. We do accept that as well. Okay, so now we're looking at 3.1. You are expected to illustrate how the following have been integrated in your inquiry-based theme plan. So in terms of, habits of body, where things like fine and gross motor skills, they are crucial for developing physical abilities and coordination in our young learners. So how you can improve your answer if you didn't do that well is illustrate how habits of body were integrated, providing concrete examples, including specific activities such as maybe, role playing that they were doing regarding the water cycle, things like that. So it must be things that they were really using their bodies for, and, which we really encourage. And habits of mind are critical thinking and problem solving components, which are essential for developing cognitive skills. And suggestions would be providing examples, where you get students to really think deeply about their water-related topics, such as predicting the effects of water pollution, analyzing the water cycle. Ensure these activities are designed to develop students' cognitive skills. When you look at habit of body, think about activities such as acting out the water cycle, or, things like also part of, using the hands, drawing, whatever it could be. It could be enhancing coordination through role playing, through sensory inputs, physical activities, using play. Play-based learning is also very important in habits of body. And habits of mind, we're getting them to really, basically control their actions. So promote active listening, think creatively, evaluate the artistic, skills, representing, the water cycle in certain activities, ask questions, explore, apply the prior knowledge, allow them to, encourage basically using their senses, foster their creativity, express their sense of wonder, all of that, and also make things humorous for them, get them to think independently. All of that is part of habits of mind. Okay, so now we're looking at the creative art activity. And this is where, you are supposed to suggest a creative art activity that you can add to your inquiry-based theme plan. So, when it comes to creative art, creative art allows students to express their understanding of the scientific concept in a tangible and creative way. So you can suggest a creative art activity that is directly related to your water theme, design and maybe an art activity, but it doesn't only have to be art, it can be things like, part of creative art is singing, drawing, role playing, performing something. So it's a lot that the markers did take into consideration, but it needed to be really linked to creative art, And now when we look at, and another, maybe I could also explain to you that to enhance your inquiry-based team plan, integrating a creative art activity, it allows your students to develop their fine motor skills as well, and creativity, and collaborate with their peers. It's important to do things like that as well, and give them that opportunity to enrich the learning experience and encourage students to engage deeply with the scientific content. Sorry, I'm just like moving it. I hope I haven't done it in other slides as well. And then we look at process skills. This was very important. You needed to include at least 3 process skills apart from observation, because we wanted you to choose the others. So process skills are essential for developing student scientific inquiry ability. So my suggestion would be for you to evaluate the 3 science process skills that develop each skill within your context of your water theme. So, consider things like comparing, where they compare different types of maybe precipitation in terms of, classifying water sources, maybe measuring rainfall using a rain gauge, things like that. And then communicating, describing the water cycle through drawings and presentations. Gathering and organizing information. You could collect data on maybe rainfall or something to do with water. Inferring and predicting, making predictions about weather patterns. Forming hypotheses, developing hypotheses about the effects of temperature on evaporation or something in that sense. Separating variables, controlling variables in a water cycle experiment, for example. So it was very important for you to understand the process skills to be able to answer that question. Now we're going to question 4. This was the last question. 4.1 was apply the skills of the design process, to develop an activity for learners to solve the problem relating to your theme on water. So explanation, the design process encourages students to think like engineers, developing solutions to real world problems through investigation, design, evaluation. My suggestion for improvement would be apply the design process steps, in terms of investigate, design, make, evaluate, communicate. Basically, firstly, you need to get your students to investigate the problem. For example, your learners could investigate the problem on water conservation and the importance of saving water at home and in school. And then you get them to design, where they design and plan a solution to solve the problem. So your learners could design a plan for a simple device that can help reduce water wastage, such as rainwater collection or something, in that sense. You could get your learners to organize and make a working model. Learners use recycled materials to create a working model of the rainwater collection system. Maybe evaluate if the model works. So this is where learners test their model by collecting rainwater over a week and measuring the amount collected to see if it is maybe effective. Communicate, let your learners basically communicate the strengths, weaknesses, and improvements. Learners present their findings to the class, discuss what worked well, what did not, how they can improve. So this is very important for them to understand. When it comes to developing an activity addressing water-related problem within your theme plan, you need to follow the design process steps. Remember, you won't get marks if you haven't followed it. And give a good example, and your activity should create opportunity for learners to engage in the problem solving, the critical thinking and all of that. We want to see them have environmental awareness at the end of the day. When we look at digital technology, this is where you are expected to argue how the use of digital technology can support your teaching and learning in your inquiry-based theme plan. So remember, when it comes to this, you needed to basically show how digital technology can enhance your learning, and when you argue the benefits of digital technology, I hope you supported it within your theme plan, and the impact on your learning outcomes. Explain how these tools will help students visualize maybe the water cycle, for instance. So remember, everything needed to be linked to your theme plan. 4.3, this was an integration question, a very big question where you had to demonstrate the use of the following activities: learner science journal activity, role play activity, creative drama activity, poetry activity, story activity. And this is where, you need to understand each point. So if you're looking at learn a science journal activity. You could get students to document their observations, for instance, role play activity. This is where you could get students to act out different parts of the water cycle. One can do something in evaporation, condense. It depends what your lesson was about. Creative drama activity. This is where students can create and perform drama about a journey of maybe a water droplet. You can take a book where they play out, so that it creates a better way to follow through with a narrative, and explore the journey of water and its importance to the environment. A poetry writing activity, which would be such a great way where learners can express themselves in writing a poem about water, something about maybe the importance of water conservation. And this is where you can get them to understand and show their feelings about water and conservation. Storytelling activity, which is important, because this is where we get our students to write and share stories about water, focusing on their imaginative journeys, maybe give them also real life scenarios involving water. And they can also consider things in their daily lives and illustrate their stories and share them with the class as well. So to enhance teaching and learning within your inquiry-based team plan on water, you are now encouraged to integrate activities like this, within your teaching in the foundation phase. So I went through basically all of these: creative drama activity, poetry activity, story activity. And my general comments would be to you: each section of your work should be well supported with detailed explanations and examples to show your deep understanding. Focus on clear, logical connections between the activities you design and the learning objectives they support. Remember to reflect on your lesson plans, considering how each component will contribute to student learning. You need to aim continuously to improve, incorporating feedback, revisiting key concepts in your study guide, and continue building your strengths, and make sure you address any areas where you can provide a more detailed explanation or example. So review the relevant sections and please try to improve in this sense. I just want to try to go quickly into the September-October examination. Remember, we've moved to online examinations, so it will be a take-home exam. You will be given the timetable through the exam department, so you'll have to wait for the finalized date from that side. My advice to you to prepare for the examination is start studying in good time. Draw up your study program, within each learning unit. Be realistic, maybe, from now, before the exam time, put maybe this week, say, I'm going to go over learning unit 1. Dedicate your week to learning unit 1. The next week, learning unit 2. If you take my advice, you will end up being very prepared for your exam. Remember, I know this is a take-home examination, but its focus is on application of knowledge rather than the memorization of information. You need to carefully read through your question paper, make sure you understand it, and make sure you understand what themes you need to apply to before answering it. Take note of allocation of marks, answer the questions that you know first. Be calm, do not repeat the same facts, because remember, when we see repetition, we do end up writing their repetition and not give more allocated marks. So be positive about the examination. I know the tension. I know that you feel stressed during that time, and there's so many things you think about. I wish I wrote this. I wish I wrote that. But if you remain calm and you really prepare for the examination, there is no way you will miss out important things that are required. This is just to remind you that this is at NQF level 7. A lot of students forget that it's an exit module, and I'm, basically only 10% is on remembering and understanding. The rest is on applying the level 3 and 4, applying and analyzing, and then that's about 40% of the paper, and 50% of the paper is on evaluating and creating. There is no AI tool. There is no Google that can help you with this paper. Please understand that it's something you need to understand and apply your knowledge. When we look at examination terminology, remember to look at the verbs, the action words, know when they're asking you to name, to list, know when they're asking you to describe, explain, discuss, compare. I'm not saying these are exactly the questions that you'll find in your exam, but I'm saying to remind you to look at the keywords so that you understand what is expected of you. In terms of what to study for the exam, please do not ask me for scope. You need to study units 1 to 6 according to the policy of UNISA. We are not allowed to demarcate or scope specific work because everything is important. Work on your self-evaluation questions at the end of each learning unit. Work on the activities. Please make sure that you really prepare for the examination. These are your learning units 1 to 6. I'm sure you're familiar with it by now. It's just to remind you that they are really 6 learning units, and it's divided into science and technology. Learning unit 1 to 3 from the science education section, and learning unit 4 to 6 from the technology education section. Remember, it would be a 3-hour paper. It will be a total of 100 marks. Please make sure you use your time well. Use the first few minutes to basically read carefully to the entire paper. I think it does open 15 minutes before, so you have that time. Plan and organize your answers before writing them. Invigilation app, most probably you would be using the Invigilation app for the exam as your proctoring tool. So remember, this is a cell phone based tool, and it allows us to monitor you while you at your comfort of your own home. So remember, this tool is for invigilation purposes. So do not expect us to find your paper on the Invigilation tool. That is strictly for another reason. You need to submit on your exam, on your exam platform. This is just for the Invigilation app. It's an external source that, gives us a report. And remember to do whatever prompts they tell you. And remember, we are recording while you're sitting at your home. So if you're talking to a friend, if you're talking about answers, if you're saying, oh, what is question 1.1, we can hear it. So please understand that these random audio recordings are played for us, and are flagged for us to listen to. And we are also noting if someone is sitting next to each other. So we get a GPS notification as well that you were sitting together during the exam and your papers are compared. So please remember, students, this is very important for you to understand. Read about the Invigilation app. Know what is know that you need to work on your own and do not have conversations, especially regarding the paper, and try to have no conversations that you don't get flagged as well. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this module, and and I hope this presentation gave you valuable information that will help you prepare for your examination. And I hope that this module really gave you the opportunity to learn new ideas and concepts about teaching and learning of life skills, science and technology teaching in the foundation phase. I wish you every success in your online examination. Good luck with your exam preparation, and I am here to support you. All the best, students.